for joining us. And with that, I'd like to welcome everybody to our Friday webinar. Thank you very much for joining. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Mike Condon. I have the pleasure of being our Vice President of Franchise Development here at HomeWell. As you can see from the screen here, you got several of our team members on here. And one very special guest today is Patti Edwards. Patti is one of our franchisees from Michigan, north of Detroit, up in, she lives in Rochester because that's where I live. But her territory is just a little bit north of that. So excited to have you on, Patti, and thank you for taking some time out to join us today.
Of course, happy to be here.
Awesome. So as everybody knows, I kind of love to dig in from the beginning, and your story to us here at HomeWell and how you came on this journey and ended up being one of our franchisees, I think is obviously a little personal to me since we've known each other. Our kids go to school together. So talk to me about that first conversation you had. I know you had talked to my wife on a bus ride to a choir event, which I think is a phenomenal way. But talk to a little bit about your kind of journey to us at HomeWell and kind of what led you into thinking about, hey, I kind of want to look at this as a business for myself.
Okay, I'll actually go back a little bit farther. What made me even think about it was that I used to work in a nursing home, and I worked in the rehab side, and I loved when they would go back home, and I hated it when they would end up staying at the long-term care. So that was kind of the roots of where it all began. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for a number of years, and was talking with your wife, Kate, as you know, and had just been tossing around some ideas of things that I could venture into as I wanted to re-enter the career field, and just mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it first or if she brought it up first. I think I must have. And she said, "Oh, my husband works for HomeWell Care Services," and so I just kind of tucked that away. And about a year later, I'd been thinking about it pretty seriously, and I remember we saw you at a school event, and you had your HomeWell jacket on, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make the request. So I made the request online, and then pretty soon started getting calls from Jack, and here I am.
Oh, well, it's awesome. And I think, from our side, we really try to, when we talk to potential candidates, it's about not only the business opportunity, but the background and the fit. And obviously with your background and, what your passion is, lends very well to this industry. So, as you went through that education process with us, were you surprised? Were you scared? Like, what were your feelings and thoughts as you went through that process of getting to the point of making a decision? I guess talk to the audience out there a little bit about your mindset and what that journey was like for you.
Okay, yeah. One thing that made me think about franchising in general was I have a brother-in-law who's owns some franchises. And so that's kind of what got me thinking about franchising. And I really loved what I learned from him about that. But as far as my journey with HomeWell specifically, I felt like it was a perfect fit, to be honest. It was a blend of create not quite creativity in the way you normally think, but creating something, a business, a service that helps people in a very real way. And so I just love that blend of providing something for people that has instant rewards for the clients and the caregivers, and building those relationships between the two of them. So
Yeah, I think there's always got to be a why. Why are you going into a business, and whether it's HomeWell or another business model, I think identifying that why through that process you go through of learning about the opportunity is important. And obviously, that's what, part of what spoke to you, and why it made sense for you guys to move forward and start this business. So, so the day came, you signed the agreement, you were excited. I know we were excited to have you. Um, Talk a little bit about your training process. Being, your background, you've worked for a while, you were a stay-at-home mom for a while, which is probably the hardest job anybody's ever had. So this is probably a lot easier than that. But different challenges, right? So talk about, your education as you got to know the business model. What were some of the things maybe you learned, and some of the tools? What did you think of the tools that you were provided, that learning process as you went from signing your agreement to eventually getting your business open?
Um, it was, I'll be honest,
Mhm.
I felt overwhelmed at times with how much
Sure.
I needed to accomplish, but it was, I mean, I had someone helping me every step of the way. And so, yes, it feels like a lot to get everything up and running, and I was nervous at times, but it all came together, and no one was ever, as if there were hiccups, I never felt like anyone was mad at me or like everyone was just very supportive all along the way. So I've never started a business before, so
Yeah.
if someone else has that experience, maybe it would be less overwhelming for them. But um, they, I was guided step by step, and so it was doable. So
Yeah, I think that's a very common theme, especially for somebody that maybe this is their first time, or starting a business, starting it from scratch. And to be honest, if you've done it, even if you've done it before, there's going to be new challenges. And I think you said it. You said it well. I mean, it sometimes is going to be overwhelming, and that's normal. That's okay. As I was going to say, if it was easy, everybody would do it. But it's not easy, right? And that's okay. And that's why we're here to help support that journey, to your point, and really allow you to take it at your pace. Now, being in Michigan, obviously there wasn't a license per se that you had to submit for, some other states. So
yeah.
that barrier was a little bit lower from that standpoint, which probably, and I know in our mind it accelerates that time frame just a little bit, because you don't have to wait for that license. So we are trying to probably cram a little bit more. Did you? But as you said, you didn't feel like you were rushed. I always like to tell clients and candidates that we're going to go at your pace. We want to move the business along. Your goal is to get open, as is our goal. But do it at the right time frame. So when you opened, did you feel like you were ready to open? I guess that's where my question comes from, is, do you feel like you were, obviously still a lot to learn? You're not going to know everything day one, but did you feel confident that, okay, I'm ready to open and get this thing going?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I would say the scariest, other than like signing, like
Mhm.
making the decision, we're gonna do this, that's kind of you think real hard, okay, I'm doing this. But
Yes.
the next scary moment was probably getting an office. But yeah, I think by the time um just because getting an office makes it feel very real.
Yes.
Um, but by the time we opened, I felt like things were in line. And in fact, we pushed the opening date back a couple weeks just to make sure,
Mhm.
maybe a week, that everything was in line um before actually opening. So
Yeah.
I did feel I felt as prepared as you can without actually having done
Yeah.
it yet.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the key, is you're never going to be 100% ready in anything,
Yes.
any business. That's why we're there to help support you. I know, our typical process, for those of you that may not know, we have our opening services team come out, usually a few weeks to a couple weeks before the business is ready to open, to come out and make sure everything is ready to go. And I know, when Laura came out, we had an opportunity to, grab lunch together and hear about your journey again. And it was, seemed like that process went fairly well. But we're not here. to rush anybody. I think that's the key. And you know, you said it yourself. I mean, that's really what we're about is making sure it's right for everybody. Because when you launch, our number one goal is to have you be as successful as you can be while still learning, right? The learning doesn't stop. I'm sure you're going to talk about that as well. You know, there's always a learning curve, but that's the goal. So as you launched your business, what would you say the biggest challenge for you was when you launched your business, and even if that extends into today, because you've been open now. How for the audience? How long have you been open now?
It's about 6 months.
Okay. So, you know, you got it all ironed out. You're perfect at everything, and you know exactly what you're doing every day, right now. You know, what is that? What were some of the challenges maybe early on that you encountered that maybe you didn't weren't ready for, or you maybe didn't realize was going to be a challenge for you?
Um, I would say I think these are challenges that remain, to be honest. First would probably be getting caregivers without having immediate clients for them to go to, because the
Yep.
caregivers get hired because they want to start working tomorrow. Um, and so there's some and that problem doesn't exactly go away. But it's something we try to balance, acquiring caregivers and clients. And then the the other thing is probably, even though I knew this in my head, that just learning how to manage it, is the challenge of caregivers, um, not always following through,
Mm.
and being where you need them to be. So just I've learned to be a little bit more, um, thorough in my interviewing and in that process of hiring. So
Yeah, I think there's a learning curve there, and unless you've done it before, it's a different challenge. Um, did you when you there are a few questions that came in specifically around caregivers. Um, I guess when you first hired them to your hiring practices today, what are the biggest changes you've made when it comes to that? Are you looking for experienced caregivers? Does experience matter? You know, do you get a lot of applications and then have to weed through them? I guess talk to everybody a little bit about the process as well.
okay. So as far as applicants, we it's been a transition because Indeed just started charging, um, requiring you to sponsor every
Sponsor.
post.
Mhm.
Initially, that wasn't the case. So initially, we were getting just loads of applicants, not always very qualified. Now that we're using, Career Plug, we get fewer applicants, but um, it's it's probably a better flow for
Yep.
what we need. There's less to sift through, but it's working out. So, um, and we can kind of filter a little better there. So as far as the process, um, I would say experience does matter because this is in-home care. If it was
Mhm.
in a facility, there are other people, that they can rely on to come help if there's, um, something they're not sure about, right? But we we look for caregivers with either a CNA or at least 2 years of experience. That's just what we've chosen. Um, so we do a initial phone call, and just do like a quick interview, kind of ask a few
Mhm.
questions there. And then we do an in-person interview, and then we invite them for orientation. So those are
Okay.
our 3 steps.
So who's doing that process? Is that you? Do you have a care coordinator? What is I guess more what does your office, what does your staff look like today?
Yeah. So currently it is myself, a care manager, and it's been the two of us for the last 6 months. And we have a salesperson starting actually next week.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the care manager, she does the initial phone calls, and I generally do the interviews in person, and then the care manager, um, she does the orientations, but I'll often be there and contribute as well. So,
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, the beauty of this business model is it doesn't, depending on the state and some regulation states, typically we recommend 2 to 3 people that are kind of starting. And always one of those is obviously an active owner like yourself, Patty, and then another person because we have people ask, well, I can just do this on my own. And I think you probably answer it, no, you can't. There's just too
yeah.
much to do, right?
It's so many it's just it would be so hard to keep everything straight,
Yeah,
to be honest. So
yeah, yeah. Um, so, Susie, thank you for your questions. There are some financial questions that we're just not going to address here. If you do want to have a call with Patty as you go through the validation, she'd be happy to answer some of those questions as well. So I apologize for that. But talk about one question that did come in is from when you signed to when you opened. What was that time frame? I want to say it was around 6 months, but I don't quote me on that. You probably know better than I do.
um I should know
Do you
this.
remember? I know.
It was less than 6 months.
Okay.
I believe. Um I think it was 4.
Okay. Okay. I knew it was
So
it was somewhere between there. I couldn't remember and I didn't have it right in front of
yeah.
me. But yeah, because it's a non-licensure state, again, we can be a lot more aggressive in the timing because there's less requirements from the state, which makes it a lot easier from that side of it. Um, so as we kind of wrap up, Patty, you're 6 months in. Um, what would you say when somebody looks at this business model and says, "Hey, I have a passion to do this. I want to do this." What advice would you give them to help them say, "Yes, this is right for me," or maybe, "No, it's not." I mean, that's okay. I mean, we have a lot of people that come through the door that just isn't the right fit for either one of us, and that's okay. But from your perspective, what advice would you give to somebody looking at this industry?
I would say passion is, or at least, passion is a strong word, but a sincere interest in the service is important because you're going to be facing clients who need to feel that from you. I would also say, I don't know, some people are more okay with risk, but I'm married to an engineer, so for us it was, as you know, um, we wanted to make sure that the risk was something we could live with if it were to fail.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so there have been not many, but a couple times during this 6 months where I thought it's okay. We know that like it's going to be okay even if it fails.
Yeah.
So and that's not um just when you have like a disappointing day or something, it's kind of nice
Hmm.
to have that. So obviously you need to know your risk tolerance. I think that's important in this. Um, and it doesn't have to be the same as mine.
Yeah.
So um, otherwise though, I guess I would say, and I'm sure everyone has heard this from HomeWell before, but just to trust in the process. That's one of the reasons I chose HomeWell was because um, there is a process and it's a very clear process, especially the openings process. Um, it's not just um, going back to my brother-in-law, the franchise that he owns. He said he has much less support than I get with HomeWell. So I've just felt supported um, every step of the way. So
Yeah.
it's been good.
Yeah. I think, that's one of the larger questions we get is the support side. How are we going to support the areas where you need the most support? And you know that's something we talk about regularly. As our team knows here, we are constantly on the phone with our operations team, ensuring that what we're explaining to candidates is going to match the process that they get on the other side.
Mhm.
Um, that is really important to us, especially on the development side, and when we're working with candidates to give them that full experience. That you're not going to know everything. You don't need to know everything. That's why we're here. That's why you're joining a franchise, right? Is for that support,
Exactly.
for so you can pick up the phone and call Debbie or Stu or one of the business coaches that you work with and say, "Hey, I have no idea what to do." Cool. That's why I'm here. And that's what makes this journey a lot of fun. And when we find great partners like you and your husband and your family in general, I mean, just great people, one, but two, that has a passion to help and build a business in a community that needs it. So it's pretty awesome, Patti. And I'm excited for your next 6 months and hopefully for a long time after that to continue to see your business grow here in the Metro Detroit market. And, just excited to have you on our team. And thank you for your time today. I do have one question that came in that I do want to make sure we get answered. Is when you hired those first couple caregivers in the beginning prior to having clients, what did that process look like? I mean, what did you do with them? Were they just kind of sitting on your bench as you were acquiring clients, or what would that timing look like for you?
We were upfront with them that we were just opening. Obviously, we didn't want to pretend that we already had clients lined up. So um, I'm trying to think if I think some of the first ones we hired probably didn't stay with us for until they got a client. But we did keep some of them did stick around. And then we just kept hiring.
Yep.
And so, we hired a few one week and then we hire a few more, and then some of them will wait it out and some of them won't. And honestly, that's still how we do it. We just keep
Yeah.
hiring. And if they want to wait it out, great. And if they don't, that's okay too. So,
Yeah, you're always hiring. I think that's the
yeah.
name of the game in this business because you're going to see as your business continues to grow and scale from a client perspective, you have to be ready, and you have to be ready when that family calls and said, "My mom or dad needs 24 hours, 7 day a week care." Right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
happens. It happens to all owners, and so you want to be ready for that and prepared. And I think that's the key takeaway from continuously hiring caregivers. And they know the industry when you hire them. I mean, this isn't the first time they've done this, so
Yeah.
um, again, it's not a shock to anybody. So awesome, awesome. Well, Patti, again, I want to thank you for your time today. It's always a pleasure seeing you both in and out of school with our kids, and as a successful business owner here at HomeWell. So I want to thank you for the trust that you've put in our team here, and we look forward to many years of success with you and your business, and seeing you around the Michigan community here that you serve. So thank you for your time today. As I said, if anybody has any follow-up questions as you go through validation and you want to talk with Patti further regarding her successes, her challenges, and some of the stuff that we really can't get into today from a financial perspective, let your development director know. We can go from there. But thank you everybody for your time today. Hope everybody has a great rest of your Friday. And Patti, we'll see you around Rochester.
Okay, sounds good, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Patti.